بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونشكره على ما هدانا ونصلي ونسلم على حبيبه وصفيه سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all the created world. We praise Him and we thank Him for the guidance that we receive from Him. We greet and salute the most select and beloved of all the Prophet, our Prophet, the Holy Prophet of Islam, and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our 15th program of this blessed month of Ramadan. I sincerely pray for the safety and well-being of all of us and everyone. Since for some it was today and for others it is tomorrow, the anniversary, 15th of Ramadan, the anniversary of the birth of Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wassalam, I would like to take this opportunity and congratulate all, whether you celebrated it today or you will celebrate tomorrow, this blessed anniversary inshallah. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الحكيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Panting, galloping horses, producing sparks by thumping their hooves, launching assault at dawn, generating dust from their dashes. That humans are very ungrateful of their Lord. And they are the witness to this attitude. They are found fond of all wealth. Aren't they aware of the time when the graves are laid open and the secrets of the hearts are revealed? Indeed, on that day, the Lord shall be well aware of them and their deeds. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. We start today with the usual recap. Last night, in attempting to explain or shed some light to Surah Al-Qari'ah, I stated that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed in that surah, Surah Yawm al-Qiyamah, or the Day of Judgment, and stated that on that day, that we are all forewarned, but no one has prior knowledge of its arrival. And the qara'a, its metaphorical use, that it could arrive as sudden as a knock, unexpected rap at the door, late at night, causing panic. That The wise person is advised that they would prepare themselves for that day or for whenever death comes, and so that we will not be caught by surprise. What mystics call mutu qabla an tamutu, according to a hadith, refers to this, to be prepared for the departure so we will not be caught by surprise. And also during Surah Al-Qari'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointed out that the tremendous effect of that day is so powerful that turns the biggest, most stable things in our life, the mountains, into tufts of carded wool. And as far as human, they will be so shell-shocked that they wander around aimlessly, as one verse said, like drunk people or drunkard people, and in others, moth or plague of locust. That is something that we have to be watchful and mindful. At the end, I addressed the second point in response to a question regarding astaghfirullah and tawbah and repentance. I cited or looked at this concept from a hadith or a saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi in Nahj al-Balagha, in which somebody in front of him says, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. And Imam says, do you really understand what is istighfar? Istighfar has 6 essential elements. And the last two, last night I said, well, let's leave that. But at least the 4 that we should be mindful of. Number 1, reflection on and regret of the past. So long as we have no regret of the past, nothing is going to change. Resolution that we are not going to go back to the past, no matter what, ever. But in response to the question that the person posed, Haqqun Nas and Haqqullah have to be discharged and dispensed with. You cannot, if you have somebody, or if you owe someone, or you have backbited, or slandered, or demeaned, or character assassinated, etc., someone, you need to go and ask their forgiveness. If it is a monetary things, you have to give it to them. Return what is theirs. And that includes khums and zakat, because this is a monetary thing that belongs to the poor and the needy. And haqqullah is, again, is part of the wajibat, obligatory responsibility that we have: prayer, fasting, khums, zakat, hajj, everything that we haven't done, but it's on our shoulder. We really need to do them. We shouldn't wait until we depart and then make a wasiyah and a will. Would somebody pay somebody to go to hajj on my behalf? I have the responsibility to do that during my life. Now let's move to Surah al-Adiyat, which is the subject of our discussion today. The central theme that runs through this surah is rebuking human being for being ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Humans are informed that whatever they gain in their lives, in this world, it's through the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to them. And yet, despite that, humans are forgetful, dismissive of their responsibility to Allah. And one of their main characteristics that this chapter deals with, that these people not only are dismissive, ungrateful to Allah, they don't care the slightest about the Day of Judgment that has unique characteristics. All the secrets come out. Normally, the grave is the place where it holds the secret, because once one is buried and the dirt on top, it's gone. Here the chapter says on the day of judgment, everything from under thrown out, even the secrets of the heart. And on that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to deal with them accordingly. Strange within this surah, as we go through it and deal with every verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds human and asks them to show the same fidelity that their horses showed them in battle. The same fidelity to Allah that their horses show them in battle. Had they given them that kind of attention, it would have been different. Most commentators claim that this surah is Makki. And if we look at the content and everything else that we talked about, characteristics of surah and chapters of Makki, this surah has it. Although few individuals, few commentators have indicated that it is Madani, early part of Medina, because it talks about battle. During Mecca, there was no battle, but during early part of Medina, there was battle. And particularly with regard to the Battle of Badr. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi, when Ibn Abbas goes to him and asks clarification about this, he said, no, this verse, this chapter has nothing to do with the Battle of Badr, because during the Battle of Badr, we only had 2 horses, and the rest were camels, few camels that we had. So the notion that this surah somehow talks about the number of horses as they thump and go around and pant and gallop and create this kind of thing did not exist. Amir al-Mu'mineen claims that it is somehow to do with the camels as they move and carry people within various stations in Hajj, but that is a particular understanding. So the content of the verse, the style of the verse, the structure of the verse clearly indicates that it is Mecca. It could be something similar to it that might have revealed, but if we were to focus purely on the structure, the content, and the size of the verse, the chapter, we tend to move towards the chapter being Makki rather than Madani. The surah takes its name from the first word, mention of al-Adiyat, the charge in the first verse. There are several different accounts regarding the occasion under which this was revealed. Some people, those who opt for Medina, they say this was revealed regarding Bani Kanana and their revolt against the Muslim, or their attacks against Islam at the beginning, and how the Holy Prophet sent a group of people to go and fight them. There's another account that attributes it, this is what I just talked about, Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi, that he sees that this is a depiction of a portion of Hajj, where pilgrims rush on their mounts from Mount Arafat to Muzdalifah and Mina. So they are on their camels as they move around. But it makes this the beginning of the surah that talks about the spark coming out as these animals kick the ground doesn't fit with the camel. We know, Allah knows. This surah is unique in a sense that it divides itself into 3 sections. 5 oaths at the beginning. Then comes the response to the oath, and then comes the conclusion. The conclusion. The 5 oaths by various forms of charging horses or camels. Then the next 3 verses, that is the number 1 to number 5. The next 3 verses from number 6 to number 8 discusses the state of human beings and their ingratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. despite receiving all the blessing in their life from Allah. All the means or the resources are given to them, and yet when it comes to Allah, they become forgetful. And then the last three verses, which is 7, 9 to 11, warns that God is aware of all this, and on the day of judgment, one will have to answer for what lies even in their heart and in their chest, what they have hidden during their life. Wow, as we have already talked about, the noun or something that the Arabs used for oath, qasam. We have seen this, wal-Adiyat dabha here, and before in other verses. Wal-Adiyat dabha, I swear by those animals that run snorting as they prepare themselves to attack and charge. Refer to either horses. This part of it we can use either both for horse and for the camel. That pant as they get ready and literally charge themselves, ready to move. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا, the striking of the hooves on the rock. This doesn't fit with the camel. As the sparks fly when they use their hoof to kick and get ready to indicate that they are ready to move. This is more inclined towards horses. As they get فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. All of this describes how animals charge themselves mentally, ready to move and rush towards the heart of the enemy. As they get ready on early morning, charge and go to the heart of the enemy troops. This is, if we talk about the fact that this refers to a particular incident, then the desert at that time more inclined towards camel rather than towards horses. These are the 5 oaths. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have talked about the reason to remind the listener that what is going to be next is of critical importance. And verse number 6, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ, comes the answer to all the oath of the 5 verses before. Humans are indeed ungrateful to their Lord. This is the response to the 5 verses. Kanud linguistically means a land that nothing grows in it. Barren. Here is used to as ungrateful or petty or miserly individuals. Humans have the potential to be barren, ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that Allah has given to them. There is a question that begs to be asked here. Now we know through various verses of the Holy Quran that Allah refers in a condescending way or in a way that humans are source of problem or an evil. And at the same time, we have a number of other verses that thinks of human being as highly and elevated. We start with the first one. وَلَئِنْ أَذَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنَّا رَحْمَةً ثُمَّ نَزَعْنَاهَا مِنْهُ إِنَّهُ لَيَئُوسٌ كَفُورٌ. Once we have given a human being all the blessing, but we decided to remove that blessing from him, he becomes highly desperate and utterly ungrateful. The second verse, كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى إِنْ عَلَقَ أَنْ رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. Humans cross the limit once they become needless, once they feel they don't need anything, they are rich enough. أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, as Pharaoh said. Another verse, إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا. Mi'raj 19 and 20. Humans have been created weak in courage, very upset when touched by a slight discomfort or calamity. وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. And indeed, he is unjust and unaware, ignorant. If we have these verses and the one we just talked about, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٍ in Surah al-Adiyat, clearly indicates that humans by default, there is something fundamentally wrong in their nature. And yet, we have other verses in the Holy Quran that thinks of human being in a highly elevated status. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Indeed, we have bestowed dignity on the children of Adam and made them superior to many of those whom we have created. وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. To many of لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, the best of the best. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I'm going to create a vicegerent and give this unique individual the position of representing the divine on earth. So the question is, what is the nature of human being? Is it by default evil and goodness is somehow abstraction and transient? Or the reverse? By default good, and if they become disobedient, sinful, and ungrateful, it's the result of a transient situation. All the ahadith that we have points to the second. كل إنسان يولد على الفطرة. Human disposition is based on purity. إلا, it's the external factors, the external components that ultimately lead to them being deviated from the right path and moving non-linear, so to speak. So the nature of human is pure. Sin and disobedience is the product of circumstances. And once these humans are taken out of those circumstances, they move towards the purity. So, because they are essentially geared towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and purity. Nature of human by default is pure. If we see a human being going the wrong way, is the force of the nature and the nurture, the circumstance that they have been put into, and this is the result of it. There is a hadith from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. One day he and few of his disciples were walking within Medina, the market, and a group of the supporters of what we call the Amavi supporters, or the Uthmanis, they passed by the Imam and they did not offer respect and they did not salute the Imam. So these disciples that were walking with the Imam somehow became irritated and said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, didn't you see, or did you see these people passing by and not saying greeting or salam to you? And you are the grandson of the Holy Prophet? Imam responds, how do you know, or how do collectively, if you were not put in the same circumstance and the environment that they grew up, you would have been any different? Pure nature, yes. As كل إنسان يولد على الفطرة. But if you take him out of that pure circumstance and environment and put him or her in a trash, naturally you can't expect the fitra to flourish. So the evilness is not inherent, is transient. is the result of the consequence of the force of circumstance that a person is put into. And ultimately, naturally, that leads to consequences. This is why in a hadith we say, in response to the question that whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment is going to punish those who didn't know or they are ignorant. The answer is that whether this ignorance is willful or out of control, jahil qasir or jahil muqassir. If it is willful, yes, they will be punished, they will be asked. But if it is not willful, it's the force of circumstance. They were put into an environment that there was nothing around them to guide them through. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be more lenient towards them. إِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. This is a unique verse that mufassirin and commentators have debated as to in the dhamir lead or refers to who. إِنَّهُ, is it God or is it human? If it means human, that means by default we know when we are doing bad things. This is, as long as we are not in a state of nafs al-ammara, استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله, where shaitan covers them like a mold. Otherwise, there is a nafs al-lawwama that when we do something, it reminds us, why did you do this? إِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ is the human being, which is supported by another verse or few other verses. One of them is Surah Al-Mulk, فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. On the day of judgment, they are going to admit to their sins. And they will have huge punishment for their sins. وَإِنَّهُ لَحُبَّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Khair in this verse refers to wealth. There is a verse, Surah Baqarah 180, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا. It is an obligation on you, if anybody reaches the time of departure and has wealth, then he or she has to write a will. So khair here, in this verse, humans have intense love for wealth. And in the past nights, we have talked about this repeatedly. Meaning, humans have excessive love towards wealth and all la'ab, playfulness, amusement, etc., etc. in their life. Hoarding of wealth and becoming this wealth manages to control their mind to the point that they become disrespectful to others, backbite, slander, everything else, and because those individuals don't have the wealth that they have. أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ. Don't human or these individuals know if the graves will be overturned, literally overturned. Everything that is in it comes out. When all that contained in grave will be overturned. The image of grave being turned inside out is another example of the apocalyptic inversion that evokes the idea that one's past during the day of resurrection will be judged and revealed. Even وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, even secrets that we have in our hearts and in our chest will be revealed. Nothing will be left a secret. All that are contained in the heart will be exposed. Good will be clearly distinguished from bad, and the true nature of everything will be known, including human beings. And there are a hadith. I remember during the nights, in one of the stories that I talked about Abu Hamza al-Thumali and Imam Zain al-Abidin, salawatullah salamu alayhi, that the nature of human being is based on the deed that they do. And they will be resurrected on the day of judgment based on the nature of the deeds that they have done. You behave like a wolf, you will be resurrected like a wolf. You behave like a monkey, you will be resurrected like a monkey. You behave like other animals, you will be resurrected like other animals. So you are the copy image of what you do. That's why in that story, Imam Zain al-Abidin moved his hand in front of Abu Hamza al-Thumali's eyes and said, look, ما أقل الحجيج وأكثر اللجيج. People shout and sounds plenty, but true humans that go around the house in submission to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, very few. وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِ الشَّكُورِ. The verse in the Holy Quran. إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ بِهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَخَبِيرٌ. Surely your Lord is fully aware of them and what they have done during their life. This is the end of the surah. We really need to learn every surah that we deal with and we explain. There is a lesson to be learned from it. In this surah, we have to be mindful that everything we have is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, is the mean and the resources that Allah has given us. We should not be ungrateful. We should be more grateful and submit to the command of Allah and respect and do our duties and obligation towards Allah. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi last night talked about huququllah. Whatever is our obligation towards Allah, we really need to discharge them. This is a month of opportunities that we should not waste it. In Khutbah Sha'baniyah, the Holy Prophet said, the most cursed individual is the one that with all the opportunities in this month, all the facilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us, we allow this opportunity or these opportunities to slip through our fingers and suddenly realize at the end of the month that we haven't changed anything. And the frame is this: if the month passes by without a reasonable change in our behavior and in the negative traits that we have lost. In Khutbah al-Jum'ah this morning, a hadith from Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam alluded to the same thing. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the month of Ramadan as a playfield for us to compete. And there are two types of people that will come out of this. The same thing that Amir al-Mu'mineen talked about. One, those who rise to the challenge and become active and work hard and struggle and live like a jihad. And there are others laid back, as the simple language says, couch potatoes, do nothing. And they expect miracle. They do nothing from the beginning of the month. We do nothing from the beginning of the month. And then on the night of the 22nd, 23rd, we stand up, oh Lord, change the reality for us. It's not going to happen. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. If you want your destiny on the night of the 23rd to be written differently, you have to take the necessary steps. Otherwise, asking miracle, it's not going to happen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all and grant us this privilege of waking up during this month. Because without that yaqda and waking up, nothing is going to change. Let's pray for the well-being, safety, and protection of every member of our society that have so far during the past pressing and difficult time have put their life, their safety, their comfort, and the comfort of their family online to serve the community. May Allah protect them, inshallah, and grant them peace, tranquility in this life, and protect them from any evil. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.